Hello, and welcome back to No Sleep for Dramas. I am glad you're here. And if this is your first time, welcome to No Sleep for Dramas. We do podcasting, we do YouTube channel, we have a blog, we do all the things, and we talk about our favorite thing, Asian dramas. So welcome to another episode, or your first episode if this is your first one. If you count the blog, I have been doing this list for 6 years now. And this is the first year, 2026 is the first year that this is going to be a little different. In the past, I've watched enough dramas to make a list of K-dramas and then make a list of C-dramas, everything else. And this year, that is not the case. So I figured I would combine the list into one. So this is just going to be one full list of all of my favorite dramas and movies that I watched in the first half of 2026, and it will all be in this one video. Now, we all know 2025 and how that was for me, and 2026 is good and also bad. It has not been the greatest year, but it also hasn't been the worst year ever. I'll get into it a little bit, but we're not going to spend 5 minutes on it. If this is your first time, this is the episode where we do a half-year check-in. We talk about everything that I've loved and watched in the first half of the year, aka first half of 2026, and I reiterate why I loved these things and what I rated them and if I recommend them to you or not. Now, usually, on a normal year, this list would be split out, as I said, into two separate lists. I would have watched enough to make two separate lists. It would have 2026 dramas and movies on it. That's not the case this year because I literally only watched 2 K-dramas, I think, in the first 6 months of the year, and neither one of them was 2026. And I also have not watched enough 2026 stuff from any of the other countries to make a separate list there, which is why I'm combining them and why most of the stuff on this list are not 2026 dramas. So here are the stats that we've had so far. I have only watched 15 dramas in the first 6 months of 2026, which is very low for me, very low. Historically, I have at least doubled that by the middle of the year. Last year, it wasn't as low as 15, but it was lower than like 30 if you double that. But for some reason, the first 6 months of 2026 have not been good in terms of numbers when it comes to watching dramas. What is different about 2026 versus 2025, though, is my mental health is way better. I could tell that even in January of this year versus January of last year. And while that has not helped me increase my number, it has helped me not wallow in that for the entire year. And so I think other things have been affecting my numbers, such as I have been busier. And yes, there have been times in the first 6 months where I did have some mental health issues, but it hasn't been like the entire 6 months like it was in 2025. So realistically, looking back on 2025, the first 6 months of 2026 have been a lot better in terms of my own personal life and my mental health, which at this point, it's like, I don't care how many dramas I watch in a year. I would rather be in a good headspace and enjoy the dramas, enjoy making content versus being in a horrible headspace and trying to fight through that to enjoy dramas again, which there were some moments in 2025 I was doing that. So overall, even though I don't like the fact I've only watched 15 dramas in the first 6 months, I like where I'm at personally in my personal life. Comparatively to where I was last year at the same time, I would take where I am now. That's all we're going to talk about that, but that's a little background on that. Hopefully by the end of 2026, we can add to this number. I don't think I'll meet my goal of beating my number. Maybe I'll beat my number in 2025 because I only watched like 35 things overall. Maybe. We'll see. I'm going to add some new airing dramas in the second half. Hopefully that will help, but we'll see where this year ends. I might just throw it up and accept the fate that this year is going to be and start over in 2027. I don't know yet. Hopefully in 2027, I can split these out again because I will have watched more and I would have added more on-air stuff again. We'll see. The not watching on-air dramas was an experiment for this year, and for me, that has not been paying off for what I wanted it to do. So we'll see what happens in the second half of the year, but overall, I'm not mad at how my first 6 months have went. I would have liked to watch more things and completed more things. I just was a slow watcher. We'll just have to wait and see. So this list is going to be everything that I liked in the first half of 2026 and would recommend that you watch if you have not yet. This list might change by the end of 26, but I guarantee some things on this list will be in my end of the year list as well, especially with the amount of stuff I watched. The list is everything I completed from January to June of this year. That does not mean the drama had to premiere in 2026. It could be old dramas, just everything that I watched. Because if I did that, I would not be able to even make this list if we only did 2026 stuff, because I think I only watched like 2 things that premiered in 2026. It does not include anything that I completed in July. Granted, it's only July 4th when I'm recording this, so I haven't completed anything. So the cutoff is June. This list is in no particular order and is not ranked. And if your favorites of the year are not on my list, it's probably 99% because I didn't watch them. If you have a favorite in the first 6 months and it's not on my list, please let me know what your favorites are in the comments, because they might be on my list and I just haven't gotten around to watching them, and that will tell me I have to kick it up the list a bit. But let me know in the comments what some of your favorites for the first 6 months of 2026 are. We know full well it has been crazy for me in the first half of 2026. This list will be on the shorter side because I have only finished 15 things. Just FYI. I'm going to talk about everything that was not a rewatch for me, and then at the end, I have a couple that I will talk about again, but I rewatched them this year. It didn't feel right to add them to this list of my faves because they were rewatches. I already knew they were going to be my favorites, but I still wanted to name them in case you guys have not seen my rewatches. Now, I've been talking about these dramas for 6 months. You probably have heard me talk about all of these things at least once on the podcast or in a YouTube video before. So there will be nothing new per se on this list. The only order I think I kind of put this list in was by ranking. The first things I'm going to talk about are all my 10 out of 10 ones, except for the rewatches, and then we go from there. Because there was not many to choose from, I only went with things I ranked a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. So those are my ratings for this. Usually, if my list is bigger, I go down to 8, 8.5. But for this year, I only chose 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10. Because I've only watched 15 things, my ranges for ratings are wide when it comes to this year. Which usually means I probably should have dropped some things. I only have dropped 3 dramas in the first half of the year. Probably should have been a little more, but we're here. This list may seem short for you guys. If your favorites are not on this list, it is 99.9% sure that I have not watched them. So name your favorites. Let me know your ratings. If you agree or disagree with my list, I'm sure you'll recognize some of them. Some might surprise you. One might surprise you if you didn't listen to the podcast review. But let's get into my favorite dramas or movies of what I watched in the first half of 2026. First thing I'm going to mention is the Chinese movie Better Days. It's a movie from 2019, and I have been wanting to watch this for a while, especially when it became nominated for an Oscar. Due to a podcast episode on Infatuation Podcast, I finally got around to watching this movie, and I'm so glad I did. This is a hard movie to watch, for sure, but it's incredible. It's worth the watch. I went into the movie pretty much knowing nothing. I remember I watched at least one trailer like years ago, but I intentionally did not rewatch a trailer or anything when I watched this. I did not expect it to have crime. I did not know what it was supposed to have, but I didn't expect it to have crime in it. Acting was phenomenal, even the villains. The villains were a standout in this one. The story was impactful, hard to watch, but also heartwarming at the same time. It made you think, it made you care for these characters. Very memorable and impactful movie, in my opinion. And I could see why it was nominated for an Oscar, for sure. I don't want to reveal too much about this plot or anything, because it's one of those where if I say too much, it will spoil it for you. But if you have not seen Better Days, please do yourself a favor and go watch it. Be prepared. It is a hard watch. It's not an easy watch, but it's worth it, as I said. It's worth it. I rated Better Days a 10 out of 10. Even the cinematography was amazing, and the acting, of course, as I said, was amazing. The villains were standout, but the leads were great. 10 out of 10, totally worth it. Thank you, Infatuasian Podcast, for finally getting me around to watch this movie. If you want to hear a full review of that movie plus 3 others, you can go and listen to that episode now with the drama trio. We all 3 of us were on that episode. Unnatural is a Japanese drama from 2018. This has also been a drama that's been on my plan to watch list for years. I heard it's really good. This is one of them that I started in December of last year and I completed in January/February of this year. 10 episodes. I knew going into this drama I would love it, so it's not surprising I rated this a 10 out of 10 because it's a coroner drama. I love this Japanese drama. Loved the messaging. I loved the characters, even the ones I disliked at the beginning. There was one character that I disliked at the beginning of this drama, but he grew on me. But in the first 2, 3, 4 episodes, I was like, oh my god, I want this guy to get off the show. He grew on me though, and I ended up liking him at the end, but he was aggravating in the first 2 or 3 episodes. The cases were really impactful and thought-provoking. It goes along with the messaging of the entire drama. You had these coroners that really cared for the people that they were taking care of, and they wanted to know about the crime they were investigating. They wanted to make sure these people could rest in peace, and it was just a very different look at a coroner drama than I've seen before, hence the impactful and thought-provoking part of it all. I love the found family, and there's a lot of it, which is a favorite trope of mine, as you all know. It's not just your typical crime drama where the crime unit itself is found family. There's more to explore beyond that, because most crime dramas have found family in it at this point. I literally have no bad things to say about this drama. I hope we get a season 2 at some point. Does it need one? No, but I hope we can get another one. The only thing I will say, I do wish there was some romance between at least one character. This has no romance in it. There was potential for romance, for sure. They just never did anything with it. Not that they really set anybody up with romance line. There was just really great chemistry that could have become a romance easily. It never happened. So if you are a romance girly and you are looking for a romance drama, don't click play on this because it has no romance for you. I rated Unnatural a 10 out of 10. Very deserved. Please go watch this one if you are into coroner dramas. Next up, we'll talk about the Rurouni Kenshin movies. I watched all of the ones in the series. I think there's 5 movies in total. I'm just going to talk about all of them. I'm not going to go movie by movie. I do have a podcast episode out where I review all of them and compare all of them and talk about it. So please go and listen to that podcast episode if you haven't already. Overall, I gave all of these movies a 10 out of 10. They were created between 2012 and 2021, 10-year span. My overall review of these movies is they're a 10 out of 10. I have some minor nitpicks depending on the movie, but I won't call out the nitpicks here. You can go and listen to my podcast episode, but also they weren't harsh enough to not rate the movie a 10 out of 10, if you know what I mean. I didn't downgrade my rating just because I had a nitpick about something. There's a reason why the Rurouni Kenshin movies are the gold standard of anime adaptions, and it shows. They're really, really good live adaptions. Now, if you're watching the 2012 movie versus the 2021, the age shows. You do notice it's a 2012 movie. That's not a horrible thing. You just notice its age. It didn't age badly or anything like that. That's what I'm trying to say. In my opinion, these movies are definitely worth the watch if you have not pulled the trigger and done it yet, especially if you know anything about the anime. But you don't need to watch the anime before watching the movies, so if you just want to check out the movies, go right ahead. I had not watched the anime in like 20 years when I watched these movies, and I had forgotten a lot of it. I did not need to know anything about the anime to watch it. Fight scenes were standout to me. The action scenes were great. If you're not a fan of violence, these movies are not for you. There's a lot of violence, of course. The movies are emotional, they're impactful. I love that they explored the topic of PTSD. As I said, the older movies do show their age, but Overall, great anime live adaptations, beautiful cinematography, memorable OSTs. The lead songs in these movies are some of my favorite OST songs of all time. Granted, most of them are made by one of my favorite J-rock bands of all time. That's another thing. But the OSTs of these movies are fantastic. Very well shot. Just in my opinion, it's not a waste of time to watch these movies. I think everybody should watch these movies at least once to see what a good live adaptation is. As I said, I rated all these movies at a 10 out of 10. You can go and listen to my full review of these movies on my podcast episode that I made. Culinary Class Wars Season 2. You guys should not be surprised this is on my list. 10 out of 10. It's 13 episodes. You can watch them all on Netflix. I am very biased with this review. I actually have a review of this in a YouTube video if you want to go and check out my full review of this there. I'm not going to do a full review of that, of course, here, but I'll say my review is very biased. I can't help it. I love this show. This is probably my favorite cooking show, if not my top 3. To all the cooking shows I watch. I love cooking shows in general. I can't wait for season 3. I feel like it's going to be very different because it's now going to be a team challenge, and I can't wait to see how that changes things up and how the dynamics change. Season 2 was just as good as season 1. I love the changes except for one change. The Black Coats didn't seem as much of an underdog as season 1. I've said this before. It seemed like they had a lot of skilled chefs in the Black Coats that could have been White Coats. And they actually had people in interviews saying that I applied for the Black Coats because there was like too much competition with the White Coats. I didn't particularly like that because the whole idea of the Black Coats is they were underdogs. They were like mom and pop shops, people who learn to cook by themselves, and season 2 kind of took that magic away. Granted, the people who made it farther in the show than others were those types of chefs, were the mom and pop things, but I didn't like that change that it seemed like. There was a lot of skilled, famous chefs that people seemed to know in the Black Coats versus just some unknown that was running a family restaurant for 30-something years. I still cried. At many parts of this show. I love that my favorites actually went far this time in season 2. They didn't win, but I still liked the winner. Versus in season 1, I would have preferred the other guy winning, but that was because he was a favorite of mine. I am surprised I was not spoiled on the winner because I was behind on this show and it had already finished airing by the time I finished it, but I'm glad I wasn't spoiled. And as I said, if you want a longer review of this, it is on my YouTube channel now. I rated this a 10 out of 10, but again, I'm very biased when it comes to the show because it's my favorite cooking show. And now I think the only 2026 drama that's on this list, Love Between Lines. I have a podcast review of this on my podcast with a guest, Jess from Daebak K Rambles. Please go check that out. It was a lot of fun. This is 28 episodes. It's a Chinese drama that aired in early 2026, like January, February. I was so surprised I loved this so much. I think I just was in a mood for a low angst romance drama because typically this is not my thing. Typically I wouldn't even have clicked play on this, but something told me I would like it. Something told me I should click play on it, and I loved it. It's a 9.5 out of 10 for me. I had some nitpicks about it, which I talk about in the podcast episode, but overall, I ate this up. I loved it. I love Love Between Lines. Definitely will be on my end of the year list for sure. For sure. Near perfect drama for me, except for some minor issues. I hated all of the parents, which is unique for a C-drama. There's at least one parent that's not bad. I hated all of them in this one. In my opinion, they were too easily forgiven for the most part, depending on the parent. The secrets could have been revealed a little earlier. It did not need to be 28 episodes. It could have been like 24 and been fine. Love the main couple and their relationship. That was a highlight for me. Lots of sweet moments. They had a great mature relationship. I loved how they communicated 99% of the time. There were some stupid communication parts, but what romance Chinese drama doesn't have a stupid communication part? I shouldn't say what romance drama in general doesn't have a stupid communication part. There were a couple here that were just like, are you kidding me? But the good thing about this is they resolved their angst, whatever angst they did have, because it was very low, relatively quickly. So it didn't draw it out for 8 episodes or something. Love the mix of the reality and VR. I know I'm kind of in the minority of that. In the podcast review, we kind of just gushed about the male lead for a very long time. But I thought that the leads were very good. They looked good in this drama. They had a good chemistry. If you're looking for a low angst romance C-drama, this one's for you for sure. It's great. It's one of the highlights of the first half of the year, for me at least. The romance and the lead stand out. I rated Love Between Lines a 9.5 out of 10. Next, we're going back to J-dramas. This is Last Samurai Standing. It's 6 episodes. You can watch it on Netflix. This is another J-drama that I started in December of 2025 and I brought into 2026. If you like Squid Game, Alice in Borderland, those types of dramas, you will love this drama. I love that it kept the manga feel. I rated this a 9 out of 10. I like this drama a lot. This genre works for me, though. I love these types of dramas. I love that you learn about the character's backstory with each episode. It's following certain characters throughout the drama, but each episode you get a certain character's backstory. And I loved that sequence and how they formatted that drama. I needed more episodes, though. There's only 6 episodes. It clearly is going to get a season 2, and I think it was confirmed earlier this year there is going to be a season 2 of this drama, which I'm excited for, but you know it's going to need a season 2 by the end. The fight scenes were spectacular. If you like things like Shogun or historical dramas in general, if you like that type of thing, you should check this out. I don't see many historical Japanese dramas, mainly because we don't have a lot of access to them. I would love to see more. I loved that this was historical Japan, and yet you had the game of Squid Game or Alice in Borderland in historical Japan. It was a good twist on the genre, so if you're burnt out on that type of theme, I don't think you'll be burnt out by this. There's enough difference with this that it makes it unique and its unique own story. It's a little predictable, especially if you've seen other dramas with this genre like Squid Game, like Alice in Borderland, but I still enjoyed the drama, and it's only 6 episodes. So that was Last Samurai Standing, and that is a 9 out of 10 from me. Coroner's Diary is a Chinese drama that I watched for a podcast review. I was a little late on this. I started this way later than I wanted to. 38 episodes. I'm so glad that I watched this, but if you want to hear my full review of this, you can go over to the Tea and Soju podcast, and we have a review there for Coroner's Diary. If you want a historical Chinese drama with some great chemistry, multiple couples, but also like a coroner story, this one's for you. This one's for you for sure. Some cases were better than others, but still were fun to watch. Lots of good twists. I will say it could have been reduced in episodes a little bit. I've said this before. Normally in this format, a case would be like 3 to 4 episodes tops. There were some cases in Coroner's Diary that was 5 or 6 episodes, so some spanned a little too far, in my opinion. I wanted some different endings with some of the villains, but the couples were great. I liked the main couple. There was very little angst with the main couple, which was great. They were smart together. They complemented each other. The male lead had it bad. He was into the girl really early on, and he showed it. He was smitten immediately and did everything he could to help her and support her, and I love that. Really surprised that romance was actually a key part of this drama. Usually with these coroner dramas, the cases and the crimes take front and center. This had a good balance. There were still good cases, but the romance was right there. It was very well balanced, and the romance didn't detract from the crimes, and the crimes didn't detract from the romance. I will say I would have liked a different ending with some of the romance things. There were some scenes that they skipped, which I named in the Tea and Soju podcast review. Also, the ending seemed really rushed, even though at the same time they could have reduced some episodes. I don't know. It was a weird thing that happened at the end. I'm not going to talk about it here. Overall, though, it was a lot better than I expected it was going to be, and I'm happy about that. And I feel like this was kind of a somewhat sleeper hit from last year. So if you have not seen this, please put it on your plan to watch list because I thoroughly enjoyed this one and I rated it a 9 out of 10 for Coroner's Diary. All right, we have one more drama I'm going to talk about and then we'll get into the rewatches. This one I think you'll be surprised about, but you won't if you have listened to anything I've been saying for the last 6 months. Because overall, not a lot of people watch this. I kind of just clicked play on it because of the score on Douban that I was hearing and what little rumblings I saw, and that is the Mirage. This is a Chinese drama from 2025, late 2025. It started in December. And it is 24 episodes. And this, for sure, is underrated, in my opinion. I need more people to watch this drama. You wouldn't know a lot of people in this cast. There was other dramas airing at the same time as this one that got a lot more eyes on them. So a lot of people didn't watch it. It kind of flew under people's radars. The people who did watch it, though, myself included, liked the drama a lot. I gave this a 9 out of 10. I think this is so underrated. I feel like more people should watch this. This Cdrama is probably one of my biggest surprises of the year, for sure. It's not high budget. It shows. You can see there's not a high budget. The acting is good, but not great. What really sells this drama, though, is the story. The story is very well written. Well done with lots of twists. You do not see it coming. Mix of genres between sci-fi, wuxia, kind of like mystical stuff at the same time. It was a weird combination of genres, and the fact that sci-fi was very well woven into this plot, which we don't see Asian dramas do sci-fi a ton, stood out to me for sure. The mixing of genres was a lot of fun because it also kind of was a crime thing at the same time. A lot of good mixing of genres. Love the main group. The found family was key in this drama. You get attached to the characters for sure. It definitely needs a season 2. I hope we get a season 2 because I would love to explore these people again. There are some unanswered questions by the end. It's just such a unique Chinese drama that I have not seen a lot of people talk about and I have not really seen done before. But again, I think it's because it flew under a lot of people's radars. I'm really glad I clicked play on this and I'm really glad I finished it because it's good. It's a lot better than what you would think it was going to be. And so that's why it is on this list. This is the Mirage. I rated it a 9 out of 10. All right, so let's get into the rewatches. I rewatched 3 things that I'm going to talk about. So back to Infatuasian podcast, the other movie or one of the other movies we watched was Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I rewatched this. I hadn't seen this movie in a really long time. I remember renting this movie from Blockbuster when there was not a lot of dramas for me to get access to in my early years of watching back in 2008, 2009. I remember renting this movie. I even own the soundtrack. I listen to the soundtrack all the time of this movie. This is one of my favorite movies, which is why it's a 10 out of 10 for me. I am very biased with this movie. I've rewatched this movie at least 100 times. It is one of my favorite movies of all time. So naturally, I loved rewatching it again. I, for one, think this is a classic. I think a lot of people would agree with me on that. Are there flaws? Probably. I don't notice them. I love this movie too much. I don't really notice them. Love the acting. I love the story. Love the fight scenes. There's a reason why this movie is considered a classic by a lot of people. If this is a movie that you have not seen, you should at least watch it once in your life, in my opinion. Rated this a 10 out of 10. You can go and check out the movie episode on Infatuasian podcast if you want to hear a full discussion about this movie. All right, the last 2 rewatches are a little more recent. You've heard of me talk about it in the last month or so. I also rewatched these for podcast episodes, so you can go and check out the podcast episode reviews of these. The first one is Come and Hug Me. It's a Korean drama from 2018. It has 32 episodes, but in reality, it's actually 16. 2018 was the time period where K-dramas decided to do 30-minute episodes, and they just split the 16 episodes into 32. It's really 16 episodes. Again, this is another Korean drama that I'm very biased about because it's one of my favorites of all time. So when Jess from Daebak K-Rambles asked me to do a review of this, of course I said yes. Of course. That review is on her podcast now. You can go and listen to it. Needless to say, I love this rewatch. I loved this Korean drama. I'm very biased with this review though. I love Jang Ki-young. I think this is actually my first K-drama that I ever watched him in. and his acting is fantastic. I have pretty much watched all of his other dramas at this point, except for maybe 2 or 3. This is another combo of crime and romance that I think is very well balanced. For me, the combo of crime and romance is always a winning combo. I know some people dislike crime with their romance. I don't. I love that combo. So naturally, I love Come and Hug Me. There are some really, really great sweet moments in this. But I will say it is very dark at the same time. Hyo Jun-ho knocks it out of the park in his acting with this drama. I don't want to give too much away. He's a standout veteran actor, to say the least, but he really showed off his acting chops in this. Think of Come and Hug Me as like a precursor to Flower of Evil. If you liked Flower of Evil, you will like Come and Hug Me. So I can't recommend both of those Korean dramas enough. If you want to listen to my review of Flower of Evil, you can also go on Daebak Game Rebels or my own podcast. I have Flower of Evil review on my own podcast as well. If you have not watched Come and Hug Me, please do so. I rated this a 10 out of 10. Again, I may be very biased, but this is one of my favorite K-dramas of all time, and thus why it's on this list. And last but certainly not least, we have The Bad Kids. I recently just finished this last month. I watched this for a review on the Tea and Soju podcast, so you can go listen to that review now. I am also very biased with this review because it is one of my favorite crime Chinese dramas of all time. The rewatch was still good. At the time that I rewatched this, I knew more of what the book had with this plot versus when I first watched it back in 2020 as it was airing, so that was a little twist and a good thing about me rewatching this drama because I knew what the book was, at least the plot points of the book. I still enjoyed rewatching this. I kind of had forgotten some of the plot points by the time I had rewatched this, so it was fun rediscovering that a little bit. Still one of the best crime C-dramas in my opinion. Acting is amazing, especially the child actors. It was a lot of fun revisiting them since I have been watching them since this drama in 2020. Crazy that it's been 6 years since this drama aired. The story is slow, but it builds really well to a climax. The villains are standouts. Still one of my favorite opening scenes in a crime drama of all time, no matter the country. If you want a good crime C-drama, please go and watch The Bad Kids. You need to watch this if you're into crime dramas in general. So that's the end of my list, both rewatches and just my favorite things that I've watched in the first half of 2026. I know some of these things are going to stay on this list by the end of the year. Hopefully some other things will come onto it. Maybe we'll get enough to make 2 lists by the end of the year. We'll have to wait and see. I know this is a little different from what I normally do, so thank you for sticking around and checking this out. I'm still happy that I have some things to recap for the first 6 months of the year. It was a lot of fun to look back at what I finished in the first half. Definitely a little different. It's still a weird year for me, but I think it's getting better. It's going to definitely be better once the end of July is done. Not that the first 6 months have been like atrociously bad or anything, but it could have been better. That's what I'm saying. This first 6 months could have been better. Could have been worse though, especially compared to 2025. We'll see how I feel by the end of the year, how this whole year ends up. I still feel like I'm trying to figure out my groove after how bad 2025 was for me, and I think I'm still adjusting from that, even though it's better. I think that's where I'm at right now, is it's definitely better than 2025, but I'm still adjusting away from that. And I also just had some really unexpected things happen in the first half of 2026, so that has also affected everything in the first 6 months. But I think things will calm down. I think things will be better by the end of the year. We'll have to wait and see. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that this blog post, YouTube video, podcast episode, however you are watching, listening to this, finds you well. I hope you have enjoyed the first 6 months of 2026. Thank you for checking this out. I really appreciate you guys sticking around. I can't believe that I've been doing this, whether it's the blog, YouTube channel, podcast for 6 years now. This would not exist without you guys. I really appreciate you guys checking this out and checking out my content. And let me know in the comments what some of your favorite things were that you watched in the first 6 months, and let me know what I should check out. I clicked play on a bunch of stuff yesterday. Should I have? Probably not, but we're in a 3-day long weekend, so I do love talking about dramas. I love making content for you guys, so thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye.